All right, welcome back. It's night 4 of the Democratic National Convention, and I have to be honest on a personal note. From the time I arrived here on Monday, there's one person I really wanted to talk to, and that is a gentleman sitting beside me, David Hogg, the president of Leaders We Deserve. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me on a very busy night.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So this is Kamala Harris's night. A lot of anticipation. A lot of people are expecting her really to at least match the moment we saw with the Obamas. And that's going to be a tall order. What are you expecting to hear from her tonight?
I think what we're expecting to hear tonight is a common sense message of unity. You know, I think our country has been so divided for so long, and we really don't need to be. You know, we agree on the fundamentals. People want their reproductive rights. People want to have their kids safe in their schools from gun violence. People want to have clean air and drinking water. And they just want somebody with common sense like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in office, right? And I think what I'm really looking forward to is framing her story in the broader American story. As the daughter of immigrants from California running with, Tim Walz from Butte, Nebraska, a town of 400, that is a story that cannot happen in any other country in the world, and that's part of what makes us amazing, right? And I'm really looking forward to hearing that and putting this moment into historical context.
This is not your first rodeo. I've been a fan of yours, really impressed with the work that you've done. But I'd ask you, without putting you on the spot too much, how would you grade the job Chicago has done with the DNC?
Well, I don't know about, I'm sure there's local politics is a very complicated and touchy subject, and I'm not from Chicago, so I don't know how much I can talk about it. But I will say Chicago is an incredible city. I mean, when I was driving along, is it Lakeshore Drive?
Yes.
And I'm looking out at Lake Michigan, I was reminded of, I've been to Istanbul and all over the world, and I was thinking of the Bosphorus, I was thinking of the water that I saw in Greece. It's incredible. I mean, you guys have some pretty bad winters here.
Yeah, we do.
But summertime in Chicago, I don't think there's anything better than that, and that's part of what, we live in such a beautiful country, and I'm so happy that Chicago was kind enough to host the DNC here. And I'm sure the traffic was extremely annoying for people, but it's been incredible. I got to see great friends and have great family in Chicago too that this reminds me I need to text them still. But I'm really thankful that you guys were such lovely hosts, and I love the food. I love the accents too. And I'm just happy to be here.
We've got 70 plus days left. The tenor, we know it's been ugly, likely to get uglier. What is going to, in your mind, energize young people and motivate them to get to the polls and make a decision one way or the other?
Well, I think first of all, it's talking about what Kamala Harris has done with President Biden. The fact that we've passed the first gun law in 30 years is amazing. It wasn't nearly as much as I would have liked to have seen, but we have seen its effects. Since when Donald Trump was in office, gun violence went up 37% nationally. It has gone down nearly 20% under President Biden. And that's in part because we put billions of dollars into funding programs to reduce gun violence and expanded background checks for people under the age of 21. We need to remind them that our country, under President Biden's leadership, has spent more on climate than any country, not just in American history, than any country ever in human history. And we need to remind them too that we're going to do a lot more work on this. We need people with experience to get stuff done. J.D. Vance, one, he's just weird, but two, he doesn't have the experience. He was just elected to the Senate. Tim Walz was in Congress for over a decade. He is able to move legislation through and get things done. And I know regardless of whether or not you're a Democrat or Republican, you want somebody who can get things done and deliver on what they talk about.
We heard the rallying cry from both Michelle and Barack Obama. We know it's a difficult road ahead. We know that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are going to need help. Who do you think they will need in particular, again, to get the young people off of their couches, off of their devices, whether it be volunteering, whether it be going to the polls, whether it be getting the word out?
I mean, who they need are other young people to talk about what they're really doing and educate our friends and family about what they're advocating for, and in terms of fighting for gun safety, fighting against climate change, working to expand reproductive rights and lower the cost of housing as well. It's notable that it's not being talked a lot about, and this isn't my issue area in particular, but I care a lot about housing policy. I care a lot about public transit policy, and Governor Tim Walz is one of the best governors in the country on delivering on that, on making housing more affordable. We need to do that at a national level, right? If you're working a job, you should be able to get a house. You should be able to afford to live and have, a decent quality of life and not have to sacrifice so much just to get by. And I think what we need is other young people to go out there and talk about what Governor Tim Walz has done, and obviously Vice President Harris has done, whether that's through the Office of Gun Violence Prevention or other things like that, to help deliver for young people. But we got a lot more to do.
Before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a little bit about your journey, what it's been like for you. Like I said, I saw you and you were such a young man and just this fresh face, and you caught my attention. What's it been like for you?
Crazy. That is the best way I can think of describing it. You know, it's been a journey for a long time. This is obviously the hardest thing I've ever done. For a long time, it was hard because obviously gun control is not known as the most politically unifying issue in the world. And there's a lot of people who don't agree with me. There's a lot of people, I've gotten death threats. There's people that have said terrible things to me and my family. But in the time since the shooting, I've had a lot of conversations with those very people. And what I say to them is like, look, I can respect that you don't agree with me, but I can't accept the fact that you don't want gun violence to continue either. I know you don't. But we act like we can't have anything that we agree on because we're so different, but we really aren't. And from those conversations, I've had a lot of people end up apologizing to me that previously called me names or said that, spread conspiracy theories about me. And those conversations have been amazing because I've learned how to turn that hatred into hope and keep me going. And I've learned how to, as weird as this sounds, I think having fun is a really important part of this work because of just being sad about it, that's the easy part. It's easy to be sad and hopeless, but we need to realize that joy is an essential part of making progress and having great friends around us to get us through the tough times and the many setbacks that happen when we're fighting against gun violence and working to make this country better, because it is a long journey. It is not a straight path. It is a hard one, but any long journey can be made with great friends. So that's what I've learned.
David Hogg, Leaders We Deserve. Thank you so much for your time. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.